I'll leave the guys to talk about Polska, and Polski, and they have a great moderator from Vixio, Joe Evans, who is a Polish expert. Yeah.
Yeah, as someone said to me over lunch, what do you know about Poland? Nothing. Well, a little bit, but these guys do, so that's fine. All right, should we go on the stage? Okay, here we are. As Zoltan said, he said my name is Joe Evans. It's not, it's Joe Ewens from Vixio Gambling Compliance. If you don't know us, we're a regulatory intelligence service. I'm the global managing editor there. I look after our team of journalists. So I'm a generalist, let's say. So I do know a little bit about what's going on with gambling regulation in Poland, but luckily these guys know a lot more. Why don't you introduce yourselves? We'll start with Marek here.
My name is Marek Plota. I'm an attorney at law, and I'm a gambling lawyer. Basically, we provide services to offshore gambling operators who want to know what is actually happening in Poland. For some of global gambling operators who are licensed in Poland, and for Polish operators who want to go global as well. So we are quite engaged in the market.
And my name is Piotr Dynowski. I'm a partner with Bird & Birds. I'm another bird after those couple of birds that were here before. I'm basically an IP tech and comms lawyer, but I'm doing gambling law for over 15 years now for all parts of the industry, operators, national, global, payment providers, and so on and so forth. So been in that industry for quite a while.
Yeah, we got a flock. Today.
And I'm a member of International Masters of Gaming Law, which will run a masterclass tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. So for those who want to go straight from the party
we have
to
30
the nice
minutes
panel.
only.
Yeah, I'm sure the room will be packed, I'm sure, with bright eyes at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Okay, I think we've got a pretty spread out, general, well-informed audience, but maybe not on the specifics of the Polish market. So before we get into the big issues, very briefly, whichever you want to take this, could you just describe in sort of a minute or two the structure of the Polish gambling market as it exists right now? Either one of you, who wants to go? Okay. I'm going to point at you, you're closest.
Pick me. Okay, so back in 2017, there was a new legislation introduced, and the market was regulated. So I will provide you with a basic information. Online casino is subject to the state monopoly, and it is subject to 50% GGR tax, and sports betting is subject to the licensing regime. And the most important information for you guys is that it's subject to very unfavorable tax regime, which is 12% of turnover, and this is the main topic that we even discussed with Joe during the dinner, that we should bring it up today, what is going on this issue in Poland, and what efforts are undertaken to switch the tax regime into the GGR.
Okay, you've answered my first question for me. So let's say first, what is the tax rate as it exists right now, and describe some of the efforts that are underway to make a shift towards a revenue-based tax rather than turnover. Could you?
Well, those efforts are in fact not new at all, because I would say the discussions are ever since that taxation model was introduced, because it's, yes, one of the steepest tax regimes in Europe, if not globally. And of course, it was pointed out many times that it's actually prohibitive in terms of development of the market, because with such high tax, you really need to build scale in a quite short time to be able to make profits. But I mean, at the same time, if you look at the largest players on the Polish market, being STS and Fortuna, they actually turn out to be quite successful. But again, one needs to keep in mind that they were the first to enter the market already many years ago, so they didn't have that much competition for quite a while. So they were able to build their position, and both of them are running both their online operations and brick-and-mortar operations, which still in Poland, especially in more rural areas, is an important factor. Plus, even if you're bookmaking points are maybe not attracting too much customers, they still give you a kind of exposure of the brand.
I need to disagree a little bit, just a little bit, because I think that still, I agree that the initiatives are not new, but it's worth underlining that these initiatives are still happening, and there is a chamber gathering most of gambling operators licensed gambling operators in Poland, who works closely with United Nations Global Compact Network in creating some reports and providing these reports to MPs, to the Ministry of Finance, and they are trying to put to make a footprint and make the higher awareness of the regulator and the people, making them convinced that higher tax doesn't mean the higher income for the state budget. So we have an honor to represent operators working within this initiative and participating in discussions within the parliamentary groups which deals with counteracting of the gray market. And these people are listening, they are agreeing with our arguments, but sure, gambling is always political and it's sensitive issue, so it's not so easy to touch this topic and change the tax the next day. But what Chinese say, even 1,000 miles journey starts with the first step. So this is how it works and what we are trying to do.
You mentioned STS and Fortuna being able to make hay in the market despite the tax rates. Are they involved in this push to try and shift to a revenue tax rate as well?
Yes, of course, because of their current position, and actually they're looking at the results, strengthening their position year to year, even though you would see a lot of new entrants to the market, but because the market is very tough, a lot of them keep on operating really on very low margin. But I mean, it's hard to deny that changing the taxation report would benefit all license operators on the market, whoever they are. Of course, some of the big guys have some concerns that making the taxation model more attractive will open the door to big global players flooding the market more than they had so far, because obviously those guys have much bigger budgets even than those big Polish guys and much more experience, better products, better platforms and all of that. So they might be a very tough competition for. So in a sense, this high taxation is also a mechanism which keeps many of them away for the time being from the Polish market, in a sense helping the big guys on the local market to keep doing their job unbothered by the big ones.
Is there anything official underway in a parliamentary sense to look at the tax rate?
Only the gatherings of the parliamentary group counteracting the grey market is official, and this is where it happens. And the representatives of Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Finance, who is a regulator in Poland, they are participating, they are listening, they are expressing their acceptance for the GGR tax in general. But they say that they need to look at numbers, they need to initiate it. But let's be honest, it won't happen tomorrow. The election is coming this year in Poland, so no one is going to touch the sensitive issue of gambling before that unless they want to lose the election.
Okay, we'll talk a bit about the election, what that might mean later on. You mentioned that UN Global Compact report, so perhaps we should turn to that. That among its recommendations was to shift the tax rate from turnover to a GGR model. What else? Well, kind of give us the context of what this report is, where it sits in the general kind of influence, and then what else it recommended in terms of changes.
Yeah, so this report provides for recommendations for the government on counteracting the grey market in general. The main concern is gambling market, of course, and they have like 3 postulates that are very visible. It's GGR, as you said, which is we propose, the market propose the GGR level between 18% and 35%, hoping that we will meet somewhere in the middle, right? The second postulate is to create independent authority which would supervise the gambling market, because nowadays it's under supervision of the Ministry of Finance. So this is typically politician charged authority. And the third one is elimination of the casino monopoly, obviously. Yeah.
Do you have any sense that, I know the election is probably an issue holding this back, but is this report likely to carry any weight looking into kind of next year maybe? Is there any hope for an independent regulator, or indeed, I guess, the bigger issue of breaking up a casino monopoly, online casino monopoly?
Well, if you ask me, I would say probably changing the taxation model is something more probable than actually setting up a fully independent regulator, even though, again, that's something which the industry was asking for many years now, and us as well, because it would be also much easier for us as advisors to have a real partner to talk to. And the problem is that, yeah, it's just a pretty tiny department, the Ministry of Finance. There's also quite a lot of rotation there. They don't publish any guidelines, they don't meet, they don't go to conferences even if they are invited, so it's very difficult, and sometimes they jump out with some interpretations, and it's just clear for them that it should be like this. Of course, from time to time now, especially when we have those chambers for the industry, it's a little bit easier. And there are, of course, some meetings, and they are listening to some things, but you don't see, at least thus far, that much outcome from that. So, in general, I would say gambling, at least with the current government, which probably might win the elections again this fall, doesn't have too much traction, because it's a conservative government closely linked to a church and so on. So, and then in general, if you look at various documents that come out of Ministry of Finance, gambling in those documents is still painted mainly as an evil activity, primarily related to clandestine criminal operations, money laundering, addictions, and so on, which, of course, is probably a part of it, but is, I would say, these days, at least in Europe, not very true picture any longer, when most of the biggest players are publicly listed stock exchange companies with a lot of obligations, with a lot of AML and so on obligations. Of course, there are some hiccups here and there, like Williams Hill recent fine, but in general, those companies are pretty legit and transparent. Not really these prohibition times US clandestine casino in the basement.
A couple of times we mentioned that a lot of this conversation is happening in the context of combating the grey market. Just for the benefit of the audience, I mean, these things are notoriously hard to benchmark, but is there a sense of how big the grey market is online for Poland?
Yeah, so depending on the report issued by entities which are interested in different reaction of the market, there are ones that say that the grey market is approximately 57%, but the others say that it's only 27%, and I believe them actually, because there are two reasons for that. We focus on the sports betting because this is the licensed part of the market. There are blacklisting measures introduced, which a lot of people say that are ineffective, and I agree that they are not very effective, but in the long term it works. And there are like 30,000 domains in the register of domains of offshore operators. So people are getting more aware of the fact that there are legal and illegal part of the market. So the sports betting now is, in my opinion, challenging with success the offshores. You can see that looking at the market. Not everyone knows that Bwin and Betway are about to start it probably in April. I'm not sure, but I'm a lawyer. I can't say things like that, but they are about it. I'm just telling it based on the public information. BetClick is already there, and major operators are looking at the market because you can't just disregard Poland with 40 million people when you want to expand on the CE region. So this is how it works.
Yeah, I think that's worth pointing out. And you mentioned the huge population in Poland as well. So is that your kind of sense as well that there are significant issues, as you say, tax rate, the structure of the regulations, maybe not the most friendly, but is the market growing fundamentally? Is it still attractive to some operators?
Yes, I mean, if you look at the statistical data that are available, of course, you can sometimes have doubts how credible those data sometimes are, but at least the ones that are published by the ministry itself, you would say they should be quite credible, because after all, they get the financial reports from all the license operators, so they know what's in there. So looking at that, the market as such is growing very dynamically year to year, and even during the COVID, even though there were obvious hiccups related to sports events being cancelled and all of that, it is growing very dynamically. And again, if you look at the results of those big players like STS, the year-to-year results is like 20-30% growth year on year, basically. But again, the picture is a little bit more granular. So if you look at all the players on the market, the big ones are doing well, but there are a lot of companies which are really on the edge of basically existing with very, very small revenues, or even making loss already a couple of years in a row, and you think for how much longer they can carry on. And actually, this year and last year, we had first situations ever in the history of Polish market that a couple of operators actually went insolvent or had their licenses cancelled because they effectively ceased operations. So shut down their websites and stopped trading.
Was that because they struggled to market themselves? They struggled to is it possible to be kind of a niche operator in Poland? Or does the tax rate make that kind of?
Rather not, because as I said, because of the steep tax, you really need to build a scale to be able to deal with the costs. So if you are too niche and then your customer base is fairly low, it's very difficult to make enough money to cover all the costs. Okay. And the platform will cost you the same whether you're big or small, probably, and certain operational costs are the same, and the tax will be the same. So simply for small entities, it's very difficult.
Looking at it maybe a little bit more optimistically.
That's from me.
Yeah, that's you. You mentioned over lunch there's example of a company entering the market and doing well.
Yeah. I like the example of BetClick because they entered the market in 2019, 2020 effectively, and they chose the unusual strategy because they do not target the typical football fan. So they are not picking off clients from the major operators like STS or Fortuna, but they create their own group of customers, which is the group of 18 to 24 years old young people interested in Instagram, in Facebook, sitting on social network. So they literally create the product of MMA freak fights. They engage the influencers, they appoint them as their sponsors, their representatives, and they spread the information all over the internet. And it's crazy how numbers are growing when it comes to them. And actually, they managed to be profitable with this exceptional strategy. So they are proved that despite the 12% turnover tax, if you are well-funded, if you have a well-thought marketing strategy, and you actually focus on the market, you are able to survive. obviously, the minor operators will not survive because they don't have sufficient funds to cover the tax and to cover the marketing spendings, which are absolutely required. So without marketing in Poland on the competitive market, you are not able to make too much revenues. However, there are examples, and I truly believe that after Betway and after bwin will launch their websites, there will be a shift of power on the market, and STS, the major one, we're going to lose in favor of the major offshore operators who are going to fight for it.
I have more questions, but I want to give you guys a chance to ask some if you have any. Are there any questions for Marek or Piotr? There's one.
Yes, we actually operate.
Ooh, wait for a microphone.
My voice traveled, but okay. Thank you. We actually operate in Polish market, and our biggest problem is the tax on the bonuses. Is this going to be reviewed? Because the only channel that we can keep that actually makes money, because as you said, marketing spend is huge. If you need to pay huge taxes plus taxes on bonuses, it just makes no sense. So the only channel that is kept is SEO. Just saying. We're the next panel. But is there going to be reviewed the taxation of the bonuses? Because that is breaking our neck.
It's pessimistic. Do you want one?
I want to have the optimistic review and like the pessimistic one. And I'll choose the realistic from that.
Well, I'm not really aware of this being too much discussed. And I think the first step is changing the general taxation model before they will deal with issues like taxation of bonuses and so on. So I think that will have to wait until anything will change on, let's say, primarily level.
Right, they're yin to this yang.
Yeah, unfortunately, I need to agree with
No.
Piotr that there are number of tax interpretations that force clients to pay the tax on the bonuses, and if you want to get in the market and acquire clients by granting them with bonuses, you need to pay for it. And so like Piotr said, we are hoping that change of taxation will affect this area and the bonuses for benefit of clients. Because it is for benefit of clients, going to change as well.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I've got some. Let's talk a bit about the elections. I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking about by repeating something you told me earlier. I understand that the ruling party, which, as you say, is right-wing, close links to the church, is leading in the polls, but not overwhelmingly. So there's at least the potential that there could be a change of government. I guess, could you characterize what a victory for either side would likely mean to your, as best as you can look in your crystal ball for gambling? Piotr can start.
Well, I mean, for me, the victory would be if at least there would be openness from the new government, whoever it will be, to really discuss the topics and have more interaction with the industry and listen to the pleas of the industry and action at least some of them. Because, as I said, I mean, to me, it's the biggest weakness that in Poland you don't really have a partner to talk to. You have a regulator who is very keen on enforcing the regulations, coming up with sometimes very weird interpretations in both directions, actually, because sometimes they are very positive about things which you would say, like, how that can be, like certain forms of live betting on card games, for example, which you would say should be something that shouldn't go under Polish law, and they were like, no, it's okay, do it. And other things which you would think are perfectly fine, and they are like, no, you can't do that. So yeah, I mean, having a partner, like a genuine partner to talk to, and who also is like proactively issuing certain position papers, guidelines, and so on. So you don't have to have a crystal ball and look into it every other day to try to guess what the outcome will be of certain actions of your clients. Would be definitely helpful.
Do you think that's more likely with one result than the other, or both parties, there's openness there potentially?
Well, the problem is that the opposition party, or the largest opposition party, unfortunately has on its account a pretty sad story of a big corruption scandal back in 2009, which actually led to introducing very restrictive gambling regulations in Poland. So because of that history, which is now quite old, and probably all the guys which were involved are long gone from politics, but because of that, they probably want to keep away from gambling as far away as possible. And in general, I don't think, irrespectively of the party, whether they're green or socialist or right-wing or liberal or whoever, gambling is simply not very high on top of anyone's agenda in Poland, and probably everyone, for the time being, is happy to keep the status quo, which isn't that bad. It's not too good, but not that bad. You know, the state treasury makes decent revenue from that, so let's keep it as it is, and unless there will be some major issues that push us to do changes, then everything stays as it is.
Your view, Marek, on election potential?
Yeah, I believe, like Piotr said, that you know, apart from political preferences, I believe that the current ruling party would be more willing to change the tax to GGR, because they are kind of a bulletproof when it comes to the you know, the electorate they have, and just the electorate doesn't care what they do. So if they win, I would say that there is much more chances to shift the tax to GGR, and maybe even regulate the casino, but I wouldn't say so. But
optimistic.
Yeah, but to give the optimistic message when it comes to the irresponsiveness of the lack of responsiveness of the Polish regulator, it's like sometimes it's good not to know what to do or what not to do, and it happens that we afraid of asking the questions to the regulator, because this is the moment that they actually get aware of the fact that the issue exists.
But
so
it's good for us lawyers,
yeah.
you know, because then we can come up with all the crazy
ideas,
workarounds and solutions.
Exactly. So you know, we even like it. Sometimes like it. We prefer to have you know, the regulator, which would be professional and actually know the stuff. But nowadays we use it for our benefit.
A wonderful message to end on. Thank you for listening, everyone, and thank you both. See you later.
Thank you.